So I am Paul Vickers. I'm a Senior Solutions Architect with Kaltura. I've been with Kaltura for about 9 years, and I've lived in the Czech Republic for the past 12. I'll hand over to my colleague Felix.
Thanks, Paul. Good morning, everyone. Dobry den. Unfortunately, that's also the limit of my Czech, so I'll have to keep it in English as well. I'm Felix Ludwig. I'm sales manager for Kaltura for a good 2 years now. Born and bred in Germany, now living in the UK, and I'm super excited to be here. First and foremost, welcome from the Kaltura side. We are very excited and grateful to have the opportunity to discuss, share ideas with you guys, and pick your brain when it comes to digital learning innovation within the education industry. And I don't want to bore you too long with a sales pitch, so we're going to spend the next hour or so jumping into a Moodle instance run by my colleague Paul. And before that, I'm going to give you a few stats about Kaltura, what we do. Maybe Kaltura is familiar to you guys already, but we are roughly 800 plus employees globally, have 1,500 customers worldwide, 4 main offices. The biggest one is in Tel Aviv. I'm working out of the London office myself, and many end users that use our platform to learn, to collaborate, and to get better. On the next slide, you see our unified platform for real-time live and video on-demand experiences. We're going to quickly touch on a few points within the platform, which is we start on the left-hand side with the live communication. So there can be meetings, so collaboration spaces for students or for teaching staff. Virtual classrooms, so branded virtual rooms that are persistent. You can prepare them in advance, you can enter them in advance. Super interesting for universities and schools alike. Town halls, so live broadcasts to unlimited audiences into the hundreds of thousands. Then on the right-hand side, we see the video portal, so content creation, management, workflows, podcasts, so basically the mobile app to the video portal, and video messaging, so personalized video messages, for example, from the teacher or the tutor to the students after a lecture. And a content management system underneath that basically combines it all. You can adjust the player, you get the analytics for all that. So our platform ultimately is designed for learning. So we try to encourage a lean forward experience. So we don't want the students to lean back and basically just enjoy the lecture. We want them to be engaged. We want them to collaborate and to interact. On top of that, and I'm gonna introduce you on the next slide what lean forward experience means to Kaltura. Advanced learning analytics, so we give obviously all the analytics back to the university on viewership, engagement, support. Accessibility and inclusion is super important nowadays, and to Kaltura. So we help with transcriptions, translations, audio descriptions, chaptering. Each of that is part of the Kaltura platform, and we integrate in various LMSs and obviously open and customizable. So back to the lean forward experience when it comes to live and video on demand. So here you see a few features of our platform that we will at some point touch on. And if we don't touch on that within the next hour, feel free to hit me up in the next coffee break. But we can potentially support you with virtual classrooms, webinars and live events, with an interactive player, so multiple languages, a dynamic view within the player, video quizzes for on-demand content, hotspots. So you can basically transfer onto different websites, interactive video paths, 3D and virtual reality. Then content creation tools for students as well as teachers. So an express capture from the webcam, personal capture, which is a dual screen share. So we capture, for example, a PowerPoint presentation or anything on the laptop and the webcam as well. So you can switch, you can pull the videos, make them bigger, smaller, split the screen. The lecture capture straight from the classroom, the video editor and animated videos are helping students and teachers to collaborate and to engage further. And then just a quick one, just a quick tap on the back for ourselves to show you that we are a recognized market leader, and we can certainly bring value to the table for universities. And with this being said, I'll pass it on to Paul.
Okay, so we're not going to beat you to death with PowerPoint. I only have 2 slides here that I wanted to talk to. So the first thing I wanted to explain is Kaltura's architecture and our approach to developing our products. So this is what we refer to as the onion. And the critical bit is the yellow circle in the middle, because we take an approach that's generally referred to as API first. So if we're going to build a new product or a new feature, we start by building a service. So we expose an API to be consumed by that application to support the desired product or functionality. Now, why is that important? It's important because we expose those APIs to our customers, and that enables our customers basically to do anything that we do within our product set to do directly with the API. So if you need to have a custom workflow, or you want to integrate with a device or another application, we will be exposing the APIs to allow you to do that. And as I say, they're available to you. The second layer is our application tier. So having built the supporting services and workflows on the back end, we then build our applications. And can we move to the next slide? And just very quickly, we're going to be looking at one very small part of our product ecosystem. Kaltura covers a very broad range of use cases, everything from if you want to surface content within a learning management system or within SharePoint, we have an integration to do that, all the way through to managing a full award ceremony. So at the end of an academic study, you have your award ceremony. We have products that allow you to create an event around that and stream it out over the internet to your viewers. So with that, I'm going to leave the slide deck and jump into the tech. If you can just give me a moment to get my laptop up. Okay, so let's look at what the various integrations look like. So the first and most simple is a drop folder workflow. So the scenario would be, I have set the box up, it's recording to local storage, it records the lecture, and as Zoltan's already shown you, we're able to schedule that automatically, and we'll dive into that a little deeper shortly. At the end of the lecture, the device gets notification, the lecture's finished, I have a recording, that goes into an automated workflow, and you can see, or you could see if I scroll down, that there's already a pre-configured profile for ingesting that content into Kaltura. And then, and you can also include the publishing location for that. So I can go from, I've recorded in the room, I've ingested automatically into Kaltura, and I have published it out directly into the learning management system, which in this case is going to be Moodle, which we're going to jump to very shortly. The second piece is, if I can scroll up, is streaming. So again, and this is native functionality for most lecture capture hardware devices, I can have an RTMP feed where I can stream out the video to Kaltura. I could either just record that on the Kaltura side, or I could publish it directly again into the learning management system, or indeed any other location. I mean, one of the things about the Kaltura products is that we enable you to take that video content and actually publish it anywhere you like. So you can surface it in one of our applications, or you could embed it directly into your own website or push it out to social media as you wish. Okay, and by the way, I'm happy to answer questions as we go, so do feel free to interrupt or put your hand up if you have a question. We will allow a bit of time at the end for some Q&A. Closer to mouth, is that better? Okay, my arm might ache, but maybe Felix can hold the mic for me. Okay, so let's dive into the actual application. Now, I don't know how many of the people in the room are familiar with learning management systems. Okay, a few of you, good. So this is Moodle. It's very popular, mostly because it's open source, and it's a very simple environment. But for those of you that aren't familiar with learning management systems, basically, historically, they've been used to augment the learning experience. So I go to a lecture, I sit in a room like this, I watch a lecture, I go home, I realize I slept through half of it because I was out all night the night before, and I need to watch the lecture again. So I can then go and watch a catch-up recording. What happened during COVID, although some universities, particularly in the US, have been doing this for a while, is that suddenly everybody was having to work remotely. So many universities moved to using their learning management systems. Instead of just augmenting the learning experience, it became the learning experience. So they would stream their lectures. Quite often they would pre-prepare those or pre-record them and then stream them. And the students would consume all of their content through the LMS. They would do their assignments, they would do all of their submissions and grading. So Kaltura is fully integrated into Moodle. It also has exactly the same functionality that we're going to look at today in all of the market-leading LMS solutions. So Blackboard, Saka, Desire to Learn. Did I miss any? I'm sure I missed some. Yeah, Blackboard. Basically, the functionality is the same. So but we're going to look at this in Moodle. So the first thing that I want to show you is the course gallery, or in this case, the media gallery. Now, this is a fairly simple demo environment that we've created. So we only have the one course. But every single course will have its own dedicated media gallery. So as a lecturer, I can publish content to the media gallery. My lecture capture device can be configured to directly publish to this environment. So I know as a student, I go to my LMS, I select the course that I'm studying, I go to the media gallery, I will see all of the recorded lectures and any other video content that my faculty staff or teaching staff have actually uploaded to the platform. And just to expand on that a little bit, so within the media gallery, I can curate content into playlists. I can list just the media. Whoops, sorry, didn't mean to do that. So I can see the media. I can search. So if I search on disk, I surface all the content. Now, when I do a search, I'm not just searching on the title and the description. If I have closed captions or I have a PowerPoint presentation, basically any metadata associated with that video will be included in that search, and I can filter the search based on different criteria. The second part of our integration that I want to show you is My Media. So which is often the case, I am a lecturer, I've wanted to record my lecture, but I don't want to just publish it straight out to the student as is. Sorry, I forgot. Is that better? Because there's the bit where, students are coming in late, we broke for coffee, I made a mistake in my lecture, I want the opportunity to clean it up before I make it public. My Media is your private repository of content. When it's in here, unless I explicitly publish it to somewhere, it's not available to anyone else. And every authenticated user of the platform will have their own My Media repository. So if I'm a student, I can upload all my work and then decide exactly what I'm sharing with the teaching staff. It also includes a host of content creation tools. So if we look at Add New, you can see I'm not going to go through each of these individually. My arm is aching. Actually, you might have to hold the microphone for me. You can see that we have a whole host of different content creation tools. So I can do a straightforward media upload. I can use Express Capture, which is a browser-based recorder, so I can record from my laptop webcam, or I can, and at the same time, record my desktop. That's entirely a browser-based experience. I don't have to download an application or do anything else. We also have interactive video, which if we have time, we'll have a look at. Interactive video allows you to create a multi-path video experience. So I can take maybe 4 or 5 different videos, and I can create an interactive path through those videos with decision points at each particular point. And maybe we'll show the Deloitte one if we have time.
We can certainly show. So all the media that is created will be published within the My Media folder, and the entire organization of those folders is obviously can be adjusted to your organization needs. So it's entirely up to you how you structure your folder structure, basically.
At least gave my arm a rest. Okay, so we also have the Kaltura Capture application. Now that does require a download. It's supported both on Windows and Mac. You can do a network distribution. So if you have a very locked down network, your network administrators can automatically push that to your users' machines if you need to. And we also have the ability to create interactive video quiz. You will see Meeting Room, which is our virtual classroom experience. We're going to leave that until later because we're actually going to use that for our next session, so you'll get to see the capabilities there. So let me talk a little bit more, and I have to sit down for this bit. Let's talk a little bit more about how I can manage my content. So if I randomly pick a piece of video, remember, this is all contained within the LMS experience. Your users don't have to leave. So, historically, if you wanted to create a video, get it into the LMS, and then publish it, there would be a whole host of different applications that I would use to do that. In the Kaltura platform, all of that capability is contained within the Moodle experience. Okay, so we have our video, we have some basic metadata around it. I have a number of different options that I can apply to the video. I'm not going to go through every single one of these. I'm just going to pick out some of the more important ones. So typically, because this is a private piece of content, and so far I haven't published it, but I'm actually working in a group of students, and I want more than just me to have access to edit, to enhance the content or to publish it. I can add collaborators. So I can add a co-editor, or I can give other users permission to publish that content by making them a co-publisher. I also have, and this is one of my favorite tools, so when I upload a piece of content, it automatically generates a thumbnail. It basically grabs the first frame that's a few milliseconds in. Personally, whenever I used that, I always find it's grabbed the picture of me with my mouth half open and my eyes closed. So it's kind of good to be able to change that. And we provide a number of different tools to do that. So I can just simply auto-generate a whole range of different thumbnails and choose the one that I actually want to use. I'm sorry, Peter, I'm going to break your entry here. Or I can upload an image from my desktop, or I can manually select a video from the timeline. I can also allow my users to download a video. So there's a layer above this, which is the site administrator says, I'm going to allow you to share certain versions of the video, so different resolutions, or as we call them, flavors, with your users. But then the individual content owner, in this case the lecturer, gets to choose exactly what is available. You might want to make a low resolution version for people to watch offline, for example. or you may want to make the source available so they can reuse that piece of content. I'm just going to skip. So attachments, we allow the content owner to add a piece of content. There might be a PDF or a Word document or something else that I want to make available to the users along with the video. I can do that here. How am I doing on time, by the way? Okay, cool. Okay, so then timeline. So here I can add bookmarks, which makes the timeline of the video more searchable, so the user can interact directly with the video. I see the bookmark, I select the bookmark, I go to the relevant part of the video. Or I can upload a PowerPoint deck, and just for time's sake, I'm not actually going to do this, but if I upload a deck, it will associate it in the timeline. I can change the position of individual PowerPoint slides, that is, and then we use our picture-in-picture playout capability, so the user can then select whether they're looking at the PowerPoint or the video or side-by-side, exactly as they wish to view it. Okay, so that covers some of the basic media functionality that we provide out of the box. And sorry, I did forget one of the most important ones. I'm glad you asked that. I'm going to get to that. There's just one thing that I forgot to show. So let me quickly just show the inline editor. Okay, so as I already mentioned, quite often you make a recording, you've got all the preamble of people coming into the room, you've got the coffee break, you've got people leaving at the end. I want to be able to tidy up my video. The video editor allows me to top and tail, so to remove parts of the beginning and end of the video or cut pieces out of the middle. So I can, and it's deliberately a very straightforward editor. This is not, pro-level editing. This is to allow the content owner to easily clean up their video, which maybe they're only doing once a month or every few weeks. It needs to be very simple and intuitive. So we've deliberately kept the functionality to just the basics. From here, I can also add hotspots. So I can overlay a hotspot. It could include a URL or an image. I can decide where in the video timeline that gets surfaced. So you can allow the user either to jump to specific points in the video or even branch out to an external website if they wish. Did I miss anything? Oh, I did. IVQ. Sorry. So we also include an interactive video quiz capability, and I will show you that very, very quickly, just so you can see how simple it is to use. So what this allows me to do is to create a version of this video that is an interactive quiz, and I can set up all sorts of parameters like whether the user can skip questions and so on. But to add a question is simple as if I hit my space bar, I can select the type of question that I'm going to add to the timeline. Now, this is fully integrated into the Moodle gradebook. So if I create an interactive video quiz, the resulting score then goes automatically into the gradebook. So I can actually use this as in the context of assignment. So I could create an interactive video quiz in a Moodle assignment to a student, and whatever score they get during the quiz automatically goes into the gradebook. That's actually true generally of assignments. So if you create a video assignment within Moodle, the resulting grade will also get assigned to the gradebook. So you can see that it becomes a very deep part of the whole learning and education experience. Okay, I'm going to leave that and I'm going to answer your question, but I have to sit down again. Okay, so let's go back. So the first thing to note, I'm going to go back to our timeline editor, because I think you probably spotted the tab. So there is a tab on the timeline editor called Captions, and not surprisingly, perhaps, it allows you to upload a pre-existing closed caption file in all of the standard formats, so SRT, DXFP, and so on. So if you either prepare an offline captioning, or more likely you're using some kind of captioning service, or you're bringing the video in from another source where it has a closed caption associated with it, such as YouTube, you can just upload it. That's the most basic level. What I hope is more interesting, going back to my media, is that I can select a piece of content and this is where I hope I did enable this on this environment. I did. Okay. So we have a framework that we call Reach. Now, Reach provides an automated workflow for both captioning and translation services. So behind the scenes, we're using services such as Verbit, AWS, SyncWords, AmberScript. There's a whole host of service providers that stand behind this. But what this allows you to do is the user can, I need to be able to see this. You can see here that I can select different services. Now this has been set up in a fairly basic way. Under services, I could also have translation. And then I would be able to select the source language of the video. So the workflow would be, I would have my video, let's say it's in the Czech language, I would caption it, and then once it's captioned, I could then resubmit it for translation to English, French, and German, for example. That workflow is completely in the background. The user doesn't have to do anything other than select the services they want, hit submit, they'll get a notification, typically 45 minutes to an hour after they submitted it, they will get a notification back, your captioning's ready, you're good to go. And then that gets surfaced in the player, standard CC button within the Kaltura player. They can then select the language that they want to see their closed captions in, or the translation that they want to see. By the way, this service does also include audio description. So if you have particular accessibility requirements and you want to be able to add an audio description, then you can use this service to do that. We have other workflows where you can do that by uploading a multi-audio video if you're preparing that offline. Okay, any questions on that?
Can you add more than one language?
Yes. Yeah, I mean, technically there's no limit, but you can imagine that you're going to have a lot. If you had 50, it becomes a bit unusable. But I mean, very typically, European universities will offer French, German, Italian, Spanish, and the user can select which of those closed caption files they actually display in the player. Okay, let's go back to our course. So just to recap, what we've looked at so far is the media gallery, which is the main repository within the LMS where Kaltura is surfacing the video content. We've looked at the My Media, which is the personal repository of content where a user curates and manages their own content. And we'll look at the publishing flow for that in a moment. The last thing that I want to show you in this context is, if I turn on editing, I have to tell you, I probably demonstrate 4 or 5 different LMSs. They're all slightly different, and sometimes it's fun remembering which does what. So if I edit a section, and those that are familiar with LMSs will recognize this, I surface an edit box. Now, typically within a Moodle context, this allows me to add my text, my images, assignments, and other activities. With the Kaltura integration, you also get the Kaltura icon, which gives me access to various repositories. Now, the first one is My Media. So any content that I have curated, managed, and I now want to share in a course context. Remember, this is actually embedding the video in the course. We've got the course gallery, which is a general repository, And this is actually, I have a module within the course, and I actually want to embed a specific video. You know, welcome to the course, please make a short video of yourself to introduce yourself type thing. So I can do this from my media. Because I'm logged in as a teacher here, I also have access to other resources. So we have a media gallery, which is where I've published all my content. So I've got a bit of content in my media gallery. I want to embed it into the course also. The second one, I really must get some bifocals, is a shared repository. Now, this is only available to faculty staff. The shared repository is across the course context. So everybody within my faculty will have access to this repository. So you could have general learning material. Somebody did a brilliant lecture and they thought it might be useful to have the staff members. They can publish it here, and then any faculty or teaching staff that have access to this repository can then reuse it within their own course as they wish. And the final one is, we're actually missing one. There is also a campus-wide, so if you have video content, so you might have, I don't know, health and safety information or campus guides, just general information that you want to make available across all of the faculties within the university. You can publish it there, and then the teaching staff can access it and again reuse it as they wish. I will pause. Any questions?
Can I ask you, can you please show us a little bit more something about the front end, how it looks from outside? I mean the Kaltura media portal.
Yes, I was going to get to that,
and
for sure.
Then I think what could be also interesting to show the player how it works, for example, with the multi-angle videos.
We'll do that.
I think that
sure.
it could be interesting.
Okay. The last thing that I want to show you specifically within the Moodle instance, I can just leave this. Sorry, I should have completed it. The point is that I can then select my player and embed it within the course. And as you've already seen here, we have examples where we've embedded a Kaltura player. So here we have the various controls for the users. This could actually be either VOD content, so pre-recorded content, or it actually could be a live broadcast. So coming back to what we did with the box, if I selected I want to record and I want to live stream it, I can then take that player and embed it in the course. And this became phenomenally important during COVID, where people were having to do hybrid education, watching lectures remotely and so on. Not sure why that's not loading, but we won't dwell on it. The last thing that I want to show specifically within Moodle, which for teaching staff is phenomenally important. Analytics. Are my videos any good? Now, this is a shared environment, so we're going to see analytics for other courses. Just for this course. So in this context, this is only video that has been consumed within this course context, and you can see that we provide very granular information. I can see how many people have viewed, where they viewed it from, what device they viewed it on, how much of the video they watched, and that's always the critical one, because if you put a video up and everybody drops off after 30 seconds, you probably need to improve your video quality. And I can drill down and actually look at what individual students have done. So if I'm trying to do an assessment of a student, I might go in, look at the analytics, filter it on that specific student, and just see how engaged they are with the course. So that is course level analytics. So shall we move on to media space? I think so. Okay. Before I move on, are there any other questions on LMS integrations? Cool. So as I mentioned at the beginning, Kaltura, let me just make that a bit bigger. Kaltura is a big ecosystem. Another important part of our solution, I'm beginning to get tired of the green a little bit, but we'll live with it, is the media space. So media space is used heavily by educational institutions, and they use it for a very broad range of use cases. So this is the Disk Systems site, so it's got some basic branding, but universities are using this from everything from alumni engagement, more typically in the US, but increasingly in Europe, as a general video portal for the universities. So they're publishing ceremonial events, particular student activities, and so on. A number of universities brand this as Campus Tube, again, mostly in the US, because it is a very YouTube-like experience. So again, we have access, sorry, you need to get some lighter microphones. Again, we have access to, if I click on the right button. Okay, so you remember in Moodle, we had this private repository called My Media. The user is logged in, when the user is logged in to the Moodle environment, they see their repository of content. When they log into the My Media within the media space environment, they see exactly the same set of content. It is the same set of content. So we're surfacing the private repository throughout the ecosystem. If you were in SharePoint using our integration, you would see the same thing, or indeed any of our other LMSs. We're obviously not going to start looking at the management tools because they are identical to those that we've already looked at within Moodle. The second thing that I wanted to talk about here is branding and localization. So currently this is set to English. It can, as you can see, there's an EN at the top right. It can be localized for multiple languages. A piece of work that Peter and I have to do is to localize it for Czech, which we haven't got to yet, but will do. So you can localize it across multiple languages. So if you have international students, you can localize it to English, Italian, French, whichever is appropriate. The second thing that I wanted to talk to was how you create content within the media space environment. So there's basically two basic structures. There are categories. So categories you can think of as, I am the university administrator, I want to have certain information available, and I create a structure, so the navigation that can include cascading to be able to navigate. So if I, for example, go to Welcome to Disk Systems, I then have two subcategories which talks about things that we're interested in. So in this case, it's Kaltura content. The other type of curation that we can do, if I navigate back, is channels. So channels is very much more a bottom-up approach to presenting content. You could allow your students to create their own channels and invite people to join them. So if you think about the equivalent in YouTube, you can create a channel, people can subscribe, I can publish content and make it available only to those members or to everybody, but only allow those members to contribute and so on. So you have complete control. Sorry, that's not a very interesting view. Let me find something more interesting. So let's go and look at webcast. So again, we can be publishing pre-recorded content, or we could be presenting a live, and let's just show that. Should watch that I don't get some horrible audio here. You'll notice that there is a little bit of latency. Sorry, I was unmuting and should have muted. So I can publish a live event directly into MediaSpace exactly in the same way that I can publish it into Moodle. The important thing is that once this live broadcast is finished, it will automatically get transcoded. And this is subject to configuration, but let's assume I've configured it to say I want to catch up recording of the live broadcast at the end of the broadcast, it will automatically create the recording and it will replace the endpoint, the location, with the recorded video. So you can broadcast a lecture, students could watch it in real time, so live, and at the end of the broadcast, it would automatically then turn into a catch-up asset that they could come and find in exactly the same published location a month later and watch the same broadcast as a recording. I can also curate the content in different ways. So within a channel, I can create subcategories. I can create playlists and publish those to a channel or to the homepage as I wish. And I also have access to exactly the same capture tools. Now, everything I've shown you is totally configurable. You could say in the LMS, I want to give students access to this, but not to this. Faculty have access to everything. And in media space, they may have a completely different set of entitlements to use the various creation and publishing tools. The other important thing is that this fully integrates into your identity services. So for the techs in the room, you can basically do an SSO integration, any SAML base, so Azure Active Directory, for example, it will fully integrate into that. It will inherit the group attributes from your identity service. So if you segment your users, and as a minimum, you would segment them as student teacher, for example, you can then control exactly what features and functions and content they have access to, depending on what their role is. Now, you can go far more granular than that. You could say, this is a student, he's a member of the physics department, he's following these courses, and he can therefore access one set of content, whereas somebody studying a different course would see a completely different set of content. Let me pause there and see if there's any questions. No? It's all 100% clear. That's great. And so I want to move. How are we doing for time, by the way?
5 minutes.
Oh, okay. I had loads of time a moment ago. What happened? Okay, so for the techs in the room, I just want to really quickly look at the back-end management console. Now, in any organization, our recommendation is you do not allow more than 5 people access to this environment because this is keys to the city stuff. I can see everybody's content here. I can delete it, I can archive it, I can do what I like with it. So you really want to choose carefully the people who have access to this and probably pay them well. From here, I can do all of the content management activities that we've already looked at. So I can enhance the content, I can add captioning, all of the stuff that we've already looked at is available here. We also have the Player Studio. Now the Player Studio allows you to create an unlimited number of players, and you can see, just looking down the left-hand column, you can change the features and functions, you can change the branding, you can add plugins, you can really go wild and basically get the player to do whatever you want it to do. I can also then grab an embed code. So I might create a dedicated player for my website, so external to the whole Kaltura ecosystem, I might create a dedicated player which I then want to publish out to my public website. You can create as many players, we don't impose any limits. You can also modify the player experience from within all of our products. You'll see there's a long list. It says, please do not delete, but you can change them if you need to. The second piece is the global analytics. So whereas before we were looking at analytics in the context of either a course or a channel within the media space, so course for Moodle, media channel for, or a channel for the media space product. This gives you analytics across the whole piece. This tells you across the entire estate what are the best performing which are the best performing videos that I have. And again, you can drill down into minute detail, drop-off rates, user location, device, browser, and so on and so forth. And for the real text in the room, the very last bit I'm going to be able to show you before I get kicked off the stage, is I have access to all the underlying integrations and processing. So for example, I can go and integrate into Zoom. So I could create an integration here. It's pre-integrated, it's just configuration. We're going to be adding the same thing for Teams. That gives you an end-to-end workflow. I do a Zoom or a Teams recording, it stops, it automatically gets published into Kaltura. Depending on who the host of the meeting is, it ends up in my media. You can even configure it to automatically route to a specific published location if you wish. We also can apply access controls. So you might, for example, want to geo-block or geo-target particular locations, or you might want to restrict the access to certain content to your campus only. So this can only be accessed from these particular websites or these particular locations. You have complete control over who has access to the content. We do also support DRM, but to be frank, media organizations can afford it, educational institutions not so much. And the very final thing, I mean, you can see there's much here. One of the things I should mention is custom metadata. So we looked at the basic metadata. You've got title, description, you've got tags. But you may want to then have department or subject or some other custom metadata. So you can actually extend the metadata model, in theory, infinitely, although it becomes a bit boring having to fill in long forms. And very finally, you also have complete control over the transcode profiles. So if we look at this, you can see, and this is an important consideration for education. So for example, you could record to 4K, but I can tell you, if you have a large number of lectures recorded in 4K, your storage costs are going to go through the roof. So here you can decide exactly what the storage, what flavors of the video I'm going to store. And typically you might do 1080p or 720p and then some lower resolutions. Okay, any other questions on that? Okay, I understand that we've covered quite a lot of ground. Everything we've presented in the last hour is probably 15% of our ecosystem, I would say. It's a small fraction, so there is a lot more, but way too much information to try and impart in an hour. I hope that was useful. We can duet. I think the battery's going in.
So please, can you show this multi-angle player usage? That was because I think this is one of the interesting things.
We have main engine start.
Oh, I'm going to kill the audio. Okay, so what Peter's talking about is picture-in-picture functionality. So you can see here that I can select. Let's go a bit further into the video. Okay.
Předávám kameru, to je v pohodě.
So in this example, you've got a video and a PowerPoint presentation. So we can take both, and it could equally be an unlimited number of additional video streams. So you could have 4 video streams that are played out in the player. Are you all hearing this okay at the back? Do I need to shout?
Sorry. Still the microphone.
Yeah, I think this one's dying too. So sorry, I'll repeat that. So you could have an unlimited number of video streams. Now, in reality, you would never have more than probably 3 or 4 streams. But what our picture-in-picture functionality allows you to do is, and I really do need to kill the audio on that, is to select how that is presented to the user. So at the moment we have side by side. I can select to go picture in picture, and more likely the small video that you can see here would be the lecturer and then a screen share or a PowerPoint presentation or something else. And the user can then toggle between the two. So I'm sure we don't own the rights to this video, by the way. So we can toggle between, or I can select a different view entirely. So I can go full screen on one, I can go picture in picture, I can toggle the picture in picture. And that can be multiple streams. I mean, I've seen it done with 4 or 5. As I say, typically it would be more likely to be 2 or 3. Does that answer what you wanted to see? Excellent. I was happy when I got it right. Okay, I think that's all I have to do.
Yeah.
Unless there's any questions.
So I think that we will leave the questions for the next hour, because everybody needs the break. Everybody needs somebody, but we need the breaks as well and some coffee to refresh after this first part of the presentation. Já bych poděkoval pánům z Kaltury za tady tuhletu první hodinu.
Thank you.